What is going on, champs? It is your boy Sultan. Welcome faces back to another Apex Legends video. Today I'll be going over the best console settings to dominate Season 2. Thank you for joining me, and let's get into the video. With Apex Legends being so generous to offer an insane amount of setting options to change your in-game experience, there are just so many options to choose from. So today I'll be covering the main settings that I feel can give you an in-game edge to be prepared for Season 2. As per usual, if you're new to the channel, here you'll find some of the best tips and tricks to make you an even better player. So consider subscribing. Also, quick comment shout out goes to D-Lo Games. If you guys want to be featured in the next video, just remember to have notifications turned on and be the first ones to comment on the video. Now let's talk about some valid settings to help you dominate Season 2. Alright champs, I don't want to go and nitpick over every setting that there is because it could take hours, but if you are curious on what I'm using for everything, just go ahead and pause the video at certain times. Otherwise, I will be covering only a handful of settings that I feel will improve your in-game experience. So the first setting I want to focus on is the Crosshair Damage feedback. This can be located under gameplay. Now this setting should always be kept on X with shield icon because this gives you a really good understanding of how much health the opponent has. The way it works is when you shoot and land a bullet on an enemy, it will display if you are hitting armor or health, and it will also tell you the exact color of the armor the enemy has. So knowing how much armor and what type they have on is key to choosing the best times to push your enemy. So make sure you have the X with shield icon for your crosshair damage feedback, since this will benefit you a ton when deciding to push your opponent during a gunfight. Okay champs, let's get right into the next setting, which can have a massive impact on your gameplay, which is sensitivity. This can be located under your controller, and now I actually made a video on how to get better aim, and I went in depth on how you should pick your sensitivity, so I highly recommend you guys check it out. I'll leave the link down in the description. With that being said, I have my regular sensitivity and ADS sensitivity set to 4. Now if you have trouble with long range accuracy, I recommend you to lower your ADS sensitivity about 1 less than your normal sense. Now I also can't stress enough that the higher your sensitivity is doesn't make you better at the game. Getting the perfect sensitivity is personally based on aim control. Now I recommend starting at a lower sensitivity, then working your way up when you can easily manage long range accuracy after a few games of playing. Now I don't want to go too further in depth on this because my other video covers it for you guys, but I wanted to have my sensitivity in today's video because it is definitely a highly asked question in the comment sections of my Reddit and YouTube. Alright champs, let's get right into the next important setting, which is response curve. Now this can be located under the controller settings tab as well, and now I have mine set to classic, but again this is another setting which you should personally test. So what I would recommend to do is go through each one of them in the training grounds, then create your own pattern of hitting specific targets, but make sure that they are far away. To really get a better grasp of which response curve you feel more comfortable with should be based on your long range accuracy and the time it takes to adjust to the next target. So with this tip, make sure you have a semi-automatic weapon such as the longbow or the G7, so that way you are not randomly spraying the targets. But through my own personal tests, I have found that I can hit more targets with a quicker succession at long range with the classic response curve. Okay champs, let's move on to the next crucial setting which can have an impact on fine aim increments. This is the look and movement dead zone. This can also be located in your controller settings tabs as well. Now I have both look and movement dead zone set to small. Both are pretty much the same setting, but look dead zone is meant for your right analog stick, while movement dead zone is meant for your left analog stick. The bigger you set the dead zone for each of them will have an in-game analog drift, which can have an impact on your aim. Even the smallest drift can make you miss shots, especially when using the wingman. Now having them both set to small will decrease the random controller drift that happens on its own, and you will be more in control of each shot, giving you better accuracy. So I would recommend setting both dead zones to small, as that's what I find best when I'm playing, although you should try each option in Apex training to see if it's right for you. And finally champs, moving on to the last two settings, which is field of view and sprint view shake. You can find these settings under the video tab. Now field of view is 100% based on what type of console you have, but to quickly understand what it is, essentially the higher you have it set to, the more zoomed out your screen will be. This helps you see people on the left and right sides of your screen when you're aiming in. Being able to multitask by shooting an opponent, number one, while still being cautious of who's around you is key to being one step ahead during your gunfight. As you guys know, I play on the Xbox, but I have a regular Xbox, so increasing mine above 80 causes my game to have visual issues at longer range, and I find it hard to see people at those far ranges. So with my console, I found that setting the FOV at 80 is the perfect balance. Now if you can go higher, indeed do it. This gives you more vision to your surroundings, which helps a lot for spawning people. Just keep in mind, if you are setting your FOV above 70, make sure you are still able to see long-range enemy players. Now, moving on to the sprint of view setting, while this could be personal preference, I would recommend you have this on minimal because this helps prevent your screen from bouncing up and down when running. This will make it much easier for you to spot enemy players while running through the map. It gives you a more fluid and steady vision while running, which is key for being able to spot enemies far in the distance if you are changing your position. Now, champs, the last thing I wanted to quickly touch on is why my button layout is on default. For those who don't know, I use a Scuff Elite controller that I just got a couple months ago, and I have two paddles on the back of it, which are for jump and crouch. If you are a player that plays hours at a time every single day and are serious about playing Apex and want to become a better player, I highly recommend getting a Scuff or an Elite controller to really have an in-game edge over other players. But there are definitely a ton of people getting their hands on these controllers with paddles on the back of them, and it's sort of becoming the meta. So honestly, it helps so much because you can have your thumb on your aiming analog stick the entire time while still being able to jump, crouch, or perform other game movements. But before investing in one of these, because they are not cheap, do some self-research on the pros and cons about having one. But that is going to wrap up today's video. If you watched till this point of the video, thank you for spending a couple minutes of your day with me. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave a like rating. It is always appreciated. And if you are new to the channel here, find some of the best tips and tricks to make you an even better player. So consider subscribing. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. And as always, this has been your boy Sultan. I'm signing off. Peace.